Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hey everybody, Steve Stack, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, Canfield, Ohio, back here at Studio 3B, and we've got a nice one for you. Come along as we interview some of the Baird family members, some good information headed your way. Take a look. I have a very special guest today. I have one of the second generation Bairds, Mr. Matt Baird. Our product goes into our customers' homes.
Absolutely.
And we have a certain criteria that we work hard at maintaining.
Yes, we do.
I
tell people, and maybe this is boasting, this is bragging, but it's not. I tell people, and I tell our folks that work here, whether you're the last guy I hired, cut your moldings on the back of a molder, you're a setup technician, you're an engineer, we have got to be the best in the world at what we do. And I honestly think that we are, I always say when you come here and you buy a product, I want you to be satisfied and come back the third and fourth time. I don't want you to come here for one project and be done with us. And Steve can tell you through the years, our clients continually, people will come back to me, or I'll see people in town when I'm eating my lunch or whatever out, and they'll say, I did my house with you back in 1976. But they're back in here, they put an addition on that house, and they're back in here buying our products for the third and fourth time.
How many of your children do you have at the facility now?
3. I have 5 children, and I have 3 of them that work here. I have Zachary, he's a mechanical engineer. He come home from Goodyear. He's my plant engineer now. Benny is my plant manager in the molding plant. And then I have a daughter, Sarah, who was a state meat inspector. Her and her husband farmed 1,200 acres. They wanted to have a baby. Well, you can't be a state meat inspector and call a kid out of bed at 3:30 in the morning. So now I'm lucky. She's in my office and she's my head accountant here.
I have a special guest, a third generation Baird, Miss Sarah Schaefer. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Go ahead and tell the folks what you're up to on your day-to-day here at the mill.
Yeah, so day to day I handle all of the accounts receivable for our accounts, and I also assist my Uncle Scott in payables. I do most of the bill entering and things here and there for him. If he's off, I cover in his spot, and so that's what I've been doing here. And a lot of my previous experiences has really helped me as far as record keeping and working with the public, and a lot of it may not directly apply, but there was a lot of indirect skills that I learned in those years that I've brought back. And those are all very important, but I think we're missing one of the most important, and sometimes being in the accounts receivable department might not be the most enviable task, but you bring a personality that allows you to kind of smooths things over a little bit when need be, and I've seen it, you can be pretty tough. Yeah, so I grew up with 4 brothers, so I've learned throughout the years, I'm pretty laid back for the most part. You have to be with 4 brothers or else you'd be pulling your hair out a lot. And but I've also learned when it's time to put your foot down and hold your line.
Right now I know you're situated in the same office as your father. How in the world does that work out throughout the course of the day?
Well, I don't think anybody here has their own office, so I don't have many options. But no, I enjoy working next to my dad day to day. It's really a privilege to just get to have his wisdom and knowledge sitting right there in the desk next to me, and be a part of that, because he's worked hard here in his life, and he has knowledge that is unmatched to me or to any of my siblings. And so we definitely need his guidance along the way, and it's nice having him right there.
I know you're talking about here in the near future, hopefully, starting construction of a new home.
Yeah.
What kind of products are you thinking about using in your new house?
My husband has kind of left the interior up to me. He says, you know more about this than I do, so I'm thankful for that. But I truly think putting hardwoods in your home is such an unmatched beauty. And I don't think any other material can capture the beauty that hardwoods does. But so far what we've discussed, we really like character grade hickory. And we also like the live sawn white oak that we recently have been implementing. I think this is live sawn behind us here.
Yeah, we've got the character grade live sawn behind us here on the walls. Two great choices. We're going to talk a little product specific today, and I brought in the expert, Mr. Terry Baird. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks.
You know, in our industry, we've seen it, you know, time and time again. It follows what the interior designers and decorators and the builders and the cabinet makers kind of offer. And as of late, you know, going back 5 years ago, the white oak started getting hot because it was a nice neutral color, and then it expanded into some character grade, and then all of a sudden it's gone into this live sawn, and it's a different product because of the way it's produced off the sawmill.
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid that you're getting a little bit of everything in one product. You know, depending on where it comes off of the can as they're sawing it, you'll have the flat sawn, typical cathedral looking grain. And as you start slicing down through the cant, the grain configuration changes. So now you're getting in kind of a rifty cathedral, and as you come down further, you're into a quarter sawn with a little bit of cathedral. And you know, in some of those boards, once you hit the center with the pith, you have to take that out because it'll split. And then you might have some narrower pieces that are going to be quartered rifty, and as you come down through it, it's just a reverse. So you're getting everything.
So we're envisioning this round log with the round growth rings on it, and if we have this round object, the log, and we start at the top, in elementary terms, you start sawing it, and you don't change the orientation of the log while it's being sawn, correct?
Correct. I mean, what they're doing with the log is they're squaring it up four sides to start with. And you might pull some better grade because your best grade's on the outside of the log typically. So they'll pull the lumber off, we'll call it. Then once they get it squared up, and mills will saw it to a fixed size, you know, like a 9-inch cant, 12-inch, 6-inch. Then they'll just saw right down through it, like you said, Steve, from top to bottom.
One of the qualities is the natural coloration. It's referred to as white oak. It has maybe a little bit of a silver gray cast to it at times versus its cousin, the red oak, which has that reddish pinky undertone to it.
Yeah, and white oak in general speaking is a very much more consistent and uniform in color than red oak.
You don't have that wide, broad variation, right?
Yeah.
But again, like we've talked in the past, in all the demand on the white oak, it made red oak a very valuable purchase.
Oh yeah, for the bang for the buck and a coat of stain, and 95% of the people aren't going to tell if it's red or white.
The neat thing, and I just want to make the folks aware at home, this live sawn product, it doesn't matter whether it's the live sawn white oak or whether it's select red oak or select maple or black walnut, it's going through all the same operations as the rest of our flooring line. Mm-hmm. Take us through that.
So, predominantly buying in lumber green from sawmills. You know, I'll call them local, within 150, 200 miles. We're buying the lumber out of PA, Ohio, West Virginia. And so I like to dry all of our own lumber, so we've got total control over it. And I always say there's a difference between drying lumber to sell and drying lumber to use in your own facility, in which we're using at our own facility. So take extra time and care drying it to make sure that it's right. Then we run it through our rough mill. You know, we're putting it into a fixed strip, cross-cutting it, pulling out the large defects. In the rustic products, in the clear, of course, clear is clear. So we're cross-cutting it, sorting it by width and length, coming out the back end. And then depending on what process is next with the flooring, then it goes to our flooring molder, which will get molded, then end matched. And then if it's pre-finished, then it goes to our pre-finishing line. If not, it's strapped up and ready for shipment right there.
The reason I asked that, and I wanted to impress upon the folks watching that just because it's a rustic caliber product, the quality of the manufacturing process is identical to a clear select grade product. And that is one of the things that differentiates Baird Brothers floor from a lot of strip floor manufacturers.
Yeah, the big strip floor guys run fast. The run fast, you run loose. We don't run fast. We run at a good pace, but we can run tight and still hold our production where it needs to be at. We're always going for tolerance over production.
I have the privilege of introducing another of the third generation Baird family to you today. Zach, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve.
Son of Matt Baird. You're joined here at the facility with Sister Sarah and brother Benny, and man, we're glad to have you back home.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve. It's been good to be back. So,
yeah, you, like your brother and sister, kind of followed the same course. You went off, got your education, did some apprenticeships, and landed yourself a gig with a major tire company, and spent a couple years, I think, and came back to Canfield and joined back up with the family business. Take us through that little journey that I just touched on.
Yes, sir. So I went to Youngstown State and majored in mechanical engineering. You know, through school, I was working here at the sawmill, doing a little bit of CNC work from time to time, just helping out. My brother Matt has a successful residential tree service, so in between classes, I'd go out and do estimates for him. So it's been amazing to see his business grow over the years. As I got further into my college career, I did a couple internships, one with Kohler Coating, and then finally with Goodyear. Ended up doing a design engineering internship with them. So that ultimately led me to getting a full-time position with Goodyear, and spent about a year in Akron learning the ropes from some of the more senior engineers there before they sent me out to Kansas to work in the OTR tire plant to do some development work and try to improve some processes out there.
And I'm guessing you learned some stuff along the way.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. When you go in the engineering school, you learn a lot of things. Some you'll use after school, some that you won't. A lot that you wish you would forget. But the core thing you really learn how to do is problem solve, and you may not have the answer when the issues first come up, but finding a way to get it done.
Some of those experiences you had with Goodyear, I've already witnessed it. You're implementing different processes, different philosophies back here at Baird's. Take the folks through that.
Yeah, so at the core, it all starts with what's already in place. We've been here since 1960, and we do a lot of things really well. And with that, we have a few areas we can improve on. So it starts with the guys that are actually in the process, doing it day in and out. You go down, you work with those guys, the craftsmen that know the process the best, and spend a little bit of time with them and try to identify some areas to clean up communication, maybe different processes, how we do things. And at the end of the day, it's just to try to drive a better result for the customer, making sure we're still delivering that same level of quality that we've always prided ourselves on and keeping things running on time.
You grew up here. You grew up at this facility, whether you wanted to or not. and looking back, what are some of the levels that we've attained, changes that you've witnessed that keep coming back in your head?
As far as manufacturing go, I'd say one of the most efficient processes we have is probably our rough mill in the back. When you're in there and they're running 1 and 2 common poplar for finger joint full go, it's really running at quite an alarming pace. You have the full strip clear material going down to the end of the line, being pulled out and separated by width, and then 15 kickers knocking all the miscellaneous wisps of finger jointed product knocked off into bins. So it's been pretty incredible. That was all done about 2010, 2009. They overhauled the rip line, if I'm not mistaken.
And it's getting ready to go through another renovation?
Yep, we're in the process of hopefully getting some new machinery in and getting it back up to date. So certainly looking forward to that over the next year here.
It's referred to as the optimizing line.
Yep.
Right? So we're trying to optimize the yield of the lumber that we're presented with. And that falls right back in play to sustainability.
Yep.
If we optimize and we're careful and we take ownership of that lumber and we treat it like we are the owners of that lumber, then it plays back to the sustainability side. The off rips, the crosscut drops. You know it, I know it. Goes into a conveyor, through a grinding process, into our silo, our sawdust silo, and it's used as a fuel source here at the shop, right? Or it is used, sold off for animal bedding.
Yep.
Or,
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about the sawmill here is our sustainability through the utilization of the material we're getting in.
Right.
And we virtually have about 100% utilization. I don't know of any piece of that lumber product coming in that's going out the gate that hasn't been used.
Yeah, maybe if it's a windy day and some sawdust is blowing off the property, that's about the only way it's
Yep.
leaving here and not being utilized. Through technology and more advancements, we're moving ahead again. In some of the new equipment that we see showing up, whether it be the CNC and or Terry's rip barn out back with all the optimization there. One of the things that we still pride ourselves on, and it's our workforce, right? And they are the hands and eyes that handle this lumber. Whether it's molding coming off the back of a molder, or whether it's a couple of the guys putting stile on rail doors together, or whether it's the guys in packaging getting ready to ship it out, it's still the human eyes and the human hands that say, wait, this isn't right. Mm-hmm. Or, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, it starts every day with the 130 men and women we got here working. From the, like you mentioned, as the lumber comes in, it's going through the stacker, through the drying process, through the rough mill, and eventually coming into the finished shop to be made into molding, doors, all our various products. But the craftsman at every one of those steps, ensuring that we are putting out the quality of product that lives up to our expectation and our customers.
This is a continuation of a conversation I had with Miss Lori Baird, second generation, one of the second generation that they paid their tutelage under the first generation, and now they've got their third generation kids involved. And in our first sit down, Lori, we talked about the beginning, 1960, and we caught up to you coming back to the business after your registered nurse stint with the Cleveland Clinic back in the mid to late 90s, and my gosh, looking back at that. And I know you can, and I can. I can remember when we opened the new showroom.
I can too.
That
was a big day.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
And so that was in '89.
To go through that type of a tragedy and to build it to where it, developed into the showroom.
Catastrophic fire.
Yes.
Catastrophic fire.
Catastrophic, yes.
And
I didn't know which way we were going to go, how things were going to turn out, but
it was
stayed strong.
it didn't even have to be decided. The three brothers and the sister knew.
Yeah, they didn't even blink an eye. We're going to
No.
stay strong and stay together in this, and we're going to.
I remember
through
I remember
this.
the media being out there the next morning. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were here all night,
Right.
and the next morning, all of them were approached, and even second generation, your brother, I know, was approached. And, well, what are you folks going to do?
Mm-hmm.
What are you folks going to do?
There was no question.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, there was no question what was going to happen.
We pick up, we dust off, we get back in business as soon as we can. I think we were actually only shut down for 2 days.
We brought in the trailer. The trailer came in and it was set up.
Yep.
Then business, we were continued business.
Strung
through the trim
new
shop.
phone
Yes,
lines in.
It just, yeah.
And because back then that was your lifeline was the
Just
telephone.
phone was the
lines.
telephone. Yeah, we didn't have there was no cell phones or, yeah.
So as things progressed, all of our duties changed, and you started finding yourself, and I have to chuckle because where I was going isn't going to it's not going to be where I wound up. You started receiving more responsibility from Aunt Helen.
Mm-hmm. But then the office, yes.
All of them did, but Helen always had an open ear for any of the employees.
Always. They did, yeah. And she always was there to listen and to help them through whatever maybe situation it might be, good or bad. She was always there to listen.
We jump fast forward at 2022, and over the course of the last 10 years or so, you have grown into this position as our company has changed, as business operations have become more complicated. We didn't know what an HR department was.
No, we didn't. We didn't know what it was. And I can remember one day, Scott and I, second generation, him and I were talking, and it kind of developed into, we were growing and we had more employees, and we have the 401k and hiring process, insurance process, just everything kind of involved with HR. And we're like, this might be a good time to develop a department, the HR department. And so that's kind of how it developed just as we grew. And of course now we have 135 employees, so there's definitely a great need for that.
And it's not unusual to the guys knock off in the plant at 4 o'clock. It's not unusual to walk out of my office onto the balcony and walk past your office and have 3 guys standing at your doorway,
Right.
with questions, concerns, whatever,
Right.
and or throughout the course of the day.
And that's the one thing that I love about my job now, is to be here for the employees when they have questions about maybe insurance or their days off, or whatever it might be. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help them, and I think that's something that I enjoy doing, because you need, especially now where we've grown and where the business has taken us, and with 135 employees, it's important to have someone who can kind of help with those questions and answers and be there for them.
Your dad was a stickler, man. He was about growth, but he was about controlled growth.
Right.
And it's worked, to that point, to this point. And my gosh, what you and I have witnessed,
Over the years, yes.
you know, and it's
And talking about from, you know, of course I wasn't around when they started in 1960, but from when I was a child to where we are today and the growth and the changes that have taken place. But the one thing, and I emphasize this too on our third generation kids coming in, is don't forget your roots. Don't forget where we started from and how we started. And I think those values will continue to help us grow.
In our very first episode of American Hardwood Advisor, we're going to be talking about the Baird Brothers' 60-plus year history, and we thought no better person to talk that subject about other than Mr. Paul Baird. Paul, being one of the company's original founders, he and your two brothers, Richard and Howard, right? And so we want to talk about a little bit about that, the history, how you guys started the company out of necessity, out of want, you know, back in 1960, right? You and Richard and Howard.
Yeah, actually, it was even before 1960. We didn't start officially in business, but we started preparing ourselves. We were at home. We worked on local farms here, and we had a chance of power line went through north of us, strip mining over there. Timber was on. Father had a small sawmill, and that's how we actually learned about a sawmill as kids. Obviously, on a farm, you do a lot of things, and one of them was working on that mill. And so we decided instead of working for other people, we picked up a couple accounts and started pulling the logs into this mill down here and doing it the old way, you know. And whenever my friends and all, and their friends also, I was in high school, they were in college, and we all graduated in 1960. So that's when we started officially, the business started officially.
Would you ever have dreamt that we would be in a position today serving all 50 states, or shipping lumber to all 50 states and all of Canada? We have sales representatives in 3 different states, and our delivery vehicle serving those 120-mile radius of Canfield, Ohio, with our delivery trucks, and we have 3 or 4 LTL common carrier companies taking your product all across the United States. Would you have ever dreamt that?
No, not. That's as things, you know, change. That's some of what change goes on. And if you are not going to allow yourself to be in a position to change, then you're gonna. The end result is that you're not going to be in business long.
Oh, you know, very much so. And I think back to when you know, yourself and myself. I mean, we used to write orders on a order pad with a piece of carbon paper in between, and we did the math off to the side, and then the computers started coming on board, and how sister hated that. But it happened, and like you said, we adapted, we evolved, and that led to something very special. Our website internet presence is a big part of this business today, no?
Exactly. And when you first started that, you had thoughts of, well, I don't know whether this is going to be good for us or not, but it's something that involved, and you grew into it, you know, day by day. And we learned a lot. All this, when this all transpires, there's a lot of learning curves there, the whole way up from, like you mentioned, the first winding molder. That wasn't exactly a pretty thing either, right at the beginning. There was a lot of learning going on there, basically because it didn't work as they said it would. And then you have to kind of and then that's what I mean. You have to involve with it and learn. And if you don't have the fortitude to accomplish that, then it's going to be a lot tougher for you.
What's one of the most valuable lessons that you've taken away from the business decisions? You know, we're both blessed great families. Anything jump out at when you look back like that?
Yeah, there's so many. Like you say, we're blessed with good families. When you have a family operation such as this, there has to be a special nucleus with that. You have to learn how to get along, and which we were blessed. We were the three brothers. We could get along from day one, the whole way through. I don't care whether it was back when we were kids running a trap line, or we were out in the farm, or whatever. Oh, sure, you had your differences, but the main important ingredient to that is when you had your differences, you could work it out and go on.
You do not want a product leaving this facility and going into one of our customers' homes that you would not want that same product in your own home.
That's exactly right. Yeah. When I put in my home, I want the same product to go to the people that buy our product. And I want the day that we're the happiest is when they have that in their home and they're satisfied with it.
Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed the episode. Keep following along all the social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We've got more fun stuff coming your way. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time,